Hello, and welcome to 227 of the Notcast. It's a Sunday. It's mid to late August 2022. This time last weekend, the Wedding Present played there at the Edge of the Sea Festival after a 3-year break. I went, it was fantastic. And today I'm going to be talking about the Wedding Present and their 8th studio album released in 2012. That album, for the uninitiated, or for those of you that haven't read the subject matter, is Valentina. I think it's one of their best albums. It's staggeringly good. And the band were very, very busy during this period, by the way, which resulted in 3 live albums, 2 radio session albums, 4 EPs, 7 singles, and 2 studio recordings of the Valentina record as well. But it all gets very, very complicated because at the same time, the band were playing their 2010 tour for the Bizarro album, and they were also, by the time they got to 2012, they were touring the 20th of the Seamonsters record, or the 21st of the Seamonsters record, and we were in the unusual position of a band that had only one member from that period of time, but was also playing very, very old albums. There is nothing that says we completely love our new stuff like playing lots and lots of old stuff. And the first time that I saw the band around about this period was the Tunbridge Wells Forum show. I think it was August or July 2010. They played the Tunbridge Wells Forum, and the Tunbridge Wells Forum is, and it's one of my favourite venues in the world. It's a converted Victorian era public toilet. So it used to be the public toilet for a park in Tunbridge Wells, which is in Kent, in England. It's not that far away from where I live. And it's now been converted into a gig venue. It opened about 1993. It has the capacity for about 250 to 300 people. I see bands there all the time. I think I mentioned recently I saw Jesus Jones, I saw The Wedding Present, I saw Daft Funk. That is a cover version band of Daft Punk, by the way, who are absolutely brilliant there this year. Seen Frank Turner there, The Wonder Stuff, lots of bands over the years. But the first time I saw The Wedding Present was 2005 at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, the show that was immortalised on the DVD, Shepherd's Bush Welcomes the Wedding Present, which, because I was where I was in my head, wasn't quite the right place to enjoy that particular show. But times change, people change, set lists change. And when I saw them at Tunbridge Wells in 2010, I thought they were fantastic. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was the tour where they were playing the Bizarro album in full. And the Wedding Present had the position of being 2 bands at the same time. So they're a nostalgia act playing old material, but at the same point also a new lineup, new people playing new songs as well. And the first recorded example of that for the Bizarro area is this album, The Wedding Present Bizarro Live in Tokyo 2010, which I bought from the band at a gig a few years later. This was released in Japan in 2011. It features one of the Bizarro shows, which features 6 songs plus the Bizarro album played in full. This features, I think, the last live recording with Terry DeCastro on bass, as well as the then current lineup of the band, which was Charles Layton, David Gedge. I think Graham Ramsey was on guitar, and then we had Terry on bass. And Live in Tokyo, by the way, is a perfectly cromulent live album. I really enjoy it, but it's not absolutely essential. And I only say it's not absolutely essential because it's quite expensive these days, because it's only released in Japan and it didn't sell that many copies, because the Wedding Present don't sell that many copies. And in my mind, I'd much rather than be a huge band playing in stadiums. But again, if they're a huge band playing in stadiums, I'd be moaning, going, I can't see the band that I love from the back of the stadium. I mean, come on, am I never going to be satisfied? I'm not happy until I'm unhappy. That's the contents of my record collection behind me can attest. But no, Live in Tokyo is a really good live album. And to me, at least, it felt very, very fitting, actually. The Japanese version comes with an obi strip, as a lot of Japanese releases do, which is an information strip. It also features an interview with David Gedge, which here is reproduced in Japanese, and on the other side in English, which is handy for people like me that can't read Japanese. It's very British, isn't it? Very British to only speak one language and wonder why people don't all speak the same language. And of course, if everybody in the world spoke the same language, that language has got to be British, or English, because the English are fundamentally lazy. We think what we can do is just do things like invent sports, then get beaten by other countries at the sports and moan that we was robbed and we was cheated or something. So yeah, there you go. So the Bizarro Live in Tokyo, by the way, is one of the 3 live albums that came out from this period of the band, and it features 2 previously unreleased songs. So when it came out, it was the debut for a song called I Wake Up Screaming, and also for Dear Caught in Headlights. Dear Caught in Headlights appears in studio form on the Valentina album. I Wake Up Screaming appears in studio form as a Cinerama single that was released in various parts of the world. It's actually the one Cinerama thing I don't have in any format, because I haven't been able to find a copy in the UK, but I have the wedding present version, which is here. And sometimes the demarcation between what makes it a wedding present song and what makes it a Cinerama song is very, very thin indeed. So it's very difficult to work out, well, is this a Cinerama song, a wedding present song? And sometimes you just know by listening to them. But no, I Wake Up Screaming, by the way, is one of the lost great songs from this period of the band, and I do recommend it. There's a couple of others, which I will talk about as we get further into it, but there we are. The more affordable and more available live release from this period is Live 2010, which was released, I think, in 2020, 2019 maybe, which again features one of the shows from the Bizarro tour, this time at the end of the tour, recorded at the Atomic Cafe, wherever that is, in Munich, which is a place I haven't been, on the 24th of October 2010. And this features again 6 songs, then the Bizarro album in full, but the 6 songs have changed completely from the 6 songs that are on Live in Tokyo, and also features 2 new songs, which are songs which hadn't been released at this point. So they are End Credits and Mystery Date, which appear on the Valentina album. This version features a CD, and it also features a DVD of the performance. Very affordable, and the lineup has changed. Terry had left the band, but not fallen out with anybody, and the new bass player was Pepe Lemoko, who is now I think working in politics for the Liberal Democrats in Brighton, which is perhaps a little bit of a left turn, because you might also be thinking, well, politicians and pop stars, surely that's only Bono. Oh, no. Jello Biafra stood for election in California in the late 70s, and one of his manifesto lines was that people that were politicians should wear uniforms, much like racing drivers, showing who was sponsoring them. A chap from Midnight Oil stood as a politician and I think got elected, and one of Front 242 stood to be a Green politician and was not elected. There's a long history of musicians working in politics, trying to make the world a better place. Live 2010. This is much more affordable and much more available. It's really good, and it features my favourite wedding present song, which is Interstate 5. I cannot explain, although I've probably tried and failed on a previous episode, just why that song is so darn good. That, of course, was released in 2019, so it was actually relatively quiet. The band were recording the Valentina album, and they released it in March 2012, and there was a lot of formats for Valentina when it came out. Maybe not quite as many as the coloured vinyl exclusives that you need to only buy off one record store in Scotland, which appears to be the big deal at the moment. But there are a lot of formats for Valentina. And before Valentina came out, the band also did some radio sessions. And so often the first place that you would hear a studio recording of a song or a new wedding present song would have been on one of the Mark Riley sessions. Here is the vinyl release of the Mark Riley Sessions Volume 1. This came out, I think, around about 2016, actually, and this features radio sessions from the El Rey and Valentina era. Side B features a radio session from December 2010, which features Eugene and Mystery Date, both of which obviously appear on Valentina, but these are effectively radio session demos of the songs from the album. And I strongly recommend buying these, because you can, and bands that I love need all the money that they can get. There was a second set of radio sessions, which happened in November 2012. But that comes a little bit later in the chronology there. We need to get to the album. So Valentina was released as a good old-fashioned vinyl LP. Here is one of the original pressings of it. This, I think, is the American version, actually, which features a inner sleeve and a lovely bit of graphic design. I think, by the way, Valentina is one of the best of the Wedding Present albums. Lots of people think, oh, you should only like the band's original stuff. All the later stuff is unexciting. I never subscribed to that. I saw a thing relatively recently where somebody said, oh, you stop looking for new music when you hit about the age of 35. That complete nonsense. Although I will point out, and I've said this before actually when I was talking about The Cure in 1996 and New Order and Depeche Mode and bands like that, is once a band's been around for about 15, 16, 17 years, if you get into a band when you're 18, 19, 17 years later, you're about 35 and your life has probably changed. So at the time that Take Fountain came out in 2005, I was exactly and perfectly in the demographic for people that should stop listening to new music. I'd just become a parent, I was married, I'd got a mortgage. Thank God I didn't take up golf. But it was one of those things where there's only so much bandwidth in the brain to pay attention to lots and lots of things. And sometimes you just need to kind of go, I'll stick to the music that I know, and then sometimes you go, oh, I'm going to try new bands. So I try that, and some of them are good and some of them are terrible. But at the same point, sometimes you listen to music that reminds you of who you used to be and not the life that you're living. I always listen to music to try and go, I want to understand the world that I'm living in now. And music was the thing that gave me a map around the world that I was living in, and it pointed to me the experiences that I was having, and it acted almost as a signpost when I was lost in the world. And so I'm really interested in bands and acts getting older, making new material and trying to make sense of what's it like to be a 60-year-old or a 50-year-old, because I'm going to be 50 next year. I want songs that talk to me about how do you navigate getting older? What do you do about things like love and hope and politics and all that type of stuff? What's your relationship to the rest of the world? And sometimes, of course, there is no reason why someone is here apart from the fact that their parents boned, and that is, one of the reasons. And sometimes music helps you find a meaning in the midst of things which don't necessarily always feel like they might have them. So there was so that's why I think new bands that are nostalgia acts, that are playing old material, should always play new stuff. Please be writing new songs. Kraftwerk played yesterday. I didn't get to see them, for example, but again, not one song in the Kraftwerk set list is less than 20 years old, because even Tour de France 2003 was recorded in 2002. So the newest song in a Kraftwerk set list now is a fifth of a century old, and almost all of it is over 35 years old. And it's quite depressing to think, is that it? Have you run out of things to say and ideas to have around the world that you have around you? Thankfully, David Gedge will never run out of things to talk about, because all of his songs are around human relationships and the power dynamics that we've got in those, and around love is the greatest thing that we do, which is a lyric from, I think, the song Panama, which came out a few years later. But Valentina, the 10-song album, is, in my opinion, it's one of the great wedding present albums, because it just is. The songwriting is good, and it's dense, and it bears repeated listening. I should point out, by the way, the graphic design on this. I really love the graphic design on their stuff, because they've got a very good eye. It always looks like the wedding present, but at the same point, it's always unique and different and moving on from the same point. So that's the second format of the album, the CD. The first one there is the LP. There was also a Club 8 version of it. Now, what's Club 8? Well, Club 8 was an expensive kind of subscription model that you had, where you paid a little bit more money. You got access to the album, you got some downloads, you got some gig tickets, and you also got a 7-inch single. So this is a 7-inch single of Metal Men and Unthinking, number 55 out of 500. This, a clear vinyl 7-inch single of 2 tracks which weren't on the album and aren't available anywhere else. In fact, the band don't play these songs very often, although I don't quite know why. And Metal Men and Unthinking are very good songs, because the Wedding Present don't write bad songs. They just write songs that don't fit on the album. Some bands clearly do B-sides. Hello, Suede, I'm talking to you. And some bands just write lots and lots of songs, and some of them fit on the album and some of them don't. And the B-sides are really good, because they're not B-sides, they're just more wedding present songs, which is really, really important. And now the first release from this was the Eugene single. and Eugene was a promotional CDR. So there's not very much for me to show you about that because I haven't got it. It rarely turns up and it's expensive. Although it is the first song that was on the Mark Riley session in 2010. But the album opens with track one, You're Dead. And the album was recorded in France in summer and autumn 2011. Originally, it was going to be recorded by Ian Burgess, who died. Ian Burgess was an engineer who'd worked with Steve Albini. It was Steve Albini's recommendation. And if you want to know more about the recording of the album, you can buy the deluxe edition of the Valentina album, which is here, which is actually a book. It doesn't feature a CD at all. But it's got photography, interviews, lyrics, explanatory text, and just generally it's a deep dive into the recording of the album and the songs that go in it. And also alongside there is you also have access to a half-hour documentary that was recorded at the time that the record was made. You have a download of the album, and you also have a 4-track EP, which is here, which is 4 songs which have not been released physically. Those songs being Journey into Space, 1000 Fahrenheit, Pain Perdue, and Can You Keep a Secret? But track 1 is You're Dead. And You're Dead is kind of like all of the songs on Valentina are explore the normal kind of obsessions of a David Gedge lyric. So that's about humans and how they interact with each other. Now, what I should point out is there are a lot of songs and a lot of albums by the Wedding Present that are named after people. So, for example, Valentina, Rachel, Heather, Carolyn, Eugene, lots and lots of songs are named after Queen Anne as well. I almost forgot that one. All named after people. And when you go into Cinerama as well, you've got Lola Brigida, and you've got lots of songs. And of course, what is a finer thing for a song title than the name of a person? So there's lots of Wedding Present and Cinerama and David Gedge songs that are named after women, but the women are more or less individuals as opposed to kind of fictionalized ideals of what a person could be. And a lot of the song lyrics, as David Gedge said, makes it all up. Not strictly true, but with song lyrics about relationships, is that you can watch and you can observe and you can see and you can hear and you can kind of extrapolate from that ideas about people and situations and ideas that people are into. So, for example, and a lot of the things that I write are about relationships, but my relationship is something that I never write about. I write about things that I read or hear or think about, or extrapolations of ideas from certain people. And you hear, oh, someone split up with someone else, and you hear a little bit about the story, and then your brain goes, so that would be a set of circumstances that sit behind it. So, for example, a song like You're Dead, which is the first song on the album, it's got a whole kind of lyric about the end of a relationship, and when am I making it clear I want you out of here, and around all of those things is around this is the end of a relationship. When someone says, oh, you're dead to me, you never talk to them again, they're dead. It's like bang bang, you're dead. This is out of control. I'm sick of the whole shebang. I said, am I making it clear I want you out of here? And it's a fascinating concept is to open an album with the end of a relationship, and then what happens when you're ostensibly fictionally single, around how you kind of explore that as well. So track 2, Eugene, the one which you've already heard about, the fabled CDR I don't own, and again it's one of the things which you see in a lot of Wedding Present songs, a lot of Cinerama songs, is a kind of like a circling of ideas, a repetition of ideas, and it's consistent. But at the same point, it also kind of revisits things around the fictionalized ideal of what a couple could be. And Eugene actually is a great example of that, because there's a lyric around, he's Tarzan and you're Jane, he's Bogart, you're Bacall, he's Gable, you're Lombard, he's Richard to your Liz, I guess you're lucky to be his. That's kind of a standard kind of Roger Waters style list, but it's also drawing allusions to fictional relationships, fictional ideas of what a person might be like, the way that we as people, viewers, when we see films or we listen to songs, we identify with the protagonist or antagonist inside those, and we then think about, well, for example, if you are part of Or, for example, if you're a Wendy and you're going out with a Peter, I mean, that's the name of two characters in something fictional I've forgotten now. Or for example, if your name is Romeo and her name is Juliet, although that's very unlikely these days, you then have there's a sense of it's cast in the stars by the fate of the reality. Um, and that's kind of like another thing is you've got the fictional kind of narratives around relationships. You then kind of look at and go, I can see myself in that. I can see myself in that. I'm a Richard, you're a Liz, and then you kind of go, well, I guess meeting us must be fate. By the way, since me being Richard, I'm not a Welsh alcoholic actor, but so be it. Who gets married or not married 8 times, for example. And then track 3 on the album is called Meet Cute. Now, Meet Cute is a trope in in romance films, or actually any type of film where the hero meets someone and they're cute, and it's kind of like that's where the love story goes. And actually, not every film needs to have a love story in. Sometimes it's really refreshing to watch a film where where the male and the female leads aren't actually gun into bone, and it's really good when that happens, because not every person that you meet is someone that you're going to take to bed. Thank God, when I think about some of the people that I've met. No doubt some of the people that I've met thank God about not having to go to bed with me. But that's not really the point. The point is you've got this fictionalized idea, especially in narrative, that when a man meets a woman or a woman meets a man, there's got to be ooh, we could do a thing, we could kiss. And that's the meet cute part of it. So to an extent, Valentina is, I think, in my mind, an album around the fictionalized idea of romance that exists in movies and books and in popular culture, around how a relationship has to follow a certain template, and then kind of blowing that open, really, which I think is really, really interesting. And it's some really good ideas lyrically. There's some great ideas musically in the album as well. So when you've got a song like Back a Bit Stop, one of my favourite songs actually. So you think about a line that people say, and then instead of going, well, actually it's probably about telling your mate when he's reversing a van, back a bit, now stop. But actually, back a bit stop from a song perspective is actually going, I think this is going a bit too fast. I'm not sure I want to be in a relationship with you. And it's got, one of the most fantastic opening lines of any song, which is, every single thing about my so-called life was boring until you exploded into my world. What an incredible line to open a song with. And of course, the rest of it just gets better and better, really. It opens with, actually, the last lyric on this is one of the best lyrics I've ever heard, which is, how does a girl like you get to be a girl like you? And you kind of go, there's a degree of thought in that which is far beyond the vast majority of where people go, well, I'll put stuff together because it rhymes. Sorry, Wayne Hussey, you're that kind of writer. Whereas David Gedge is clearly actually working on a different speed and at a different level, I think. Track 5 is Stop Thief, and track 6 is The Girl from the DDR. Now, the DDR is, I think, the German word to describe the former East German country, which Democratic Deutsche Republic or something probably is what it was. Now, this is where the advantage of Pepe Lamoco on bass is that I think Pepe is part German and speaks German, and so you've got a kind of call and response vocal in The Girl from the DDR, where she's responding to the things that he's saying, and it becomes sort of a duet, but unless you speak both languages, it then becomes just some kind of exotic mystery. Really interesting approach to take to a song, and I think better than a number of the other ones. And then we get to track 7, which is my favourite of the songs on this album, and that is Dear Caught in Headlights. Just such a fantastic little song. They play it live very frequently. Played it live, I think, every show so far this year, with the exception of At the Edge of the Sea. And it's got just this lovely line at the end. If I were a painter, I'd just paint portraits of you. You'd be in everything that I do. And for me, thinking about that, and you think about, well, if you're thinking about the fictionalized ideal of a romantic partner in the context of an album, the idea is you'd be in everything that I do. when I was talking earlier about making stuff up or seeing it from certain perspectives, the things that I've seen in context of my personal life and any romantic relationships that I may have had, which I've had at least one, um, is the things that I've seen and heard and experienced in the context of those then translate through, and I take them with me. So, there's the Japanese idea, which is you can't fix something. So actually, what you have to do is when you fix it, you put gold in there so that it draws attention to the changes that have taken place. And for example, we're living post-COVID now, although COVID is still a thing, is that we can never return to the pre-COVID reality. There's only ever the post-COVID reality that's going to happen. The things and events that have happened have immeasurably changed us in ways that we can't necessarily tangibly appreciate or articulate. There is only the before version of us and the after version of us, in the same way that somebody, for example, if you split up with somebody in the year 2000, the version of you that exists in their mind died 22 years ago. So the version of me that exists in the mind of my ex, who I split up with in the year 2000, that version of me is dead and has been dead for a very long time. And that version of me died 5 minutes after the last time that they saw me. So that idea of who they are or who I am doesn't exist anymore. I'm somebody else, which is an idea that is also referred to in the song Little Sliver in the Going album, by the way. Which when I talked about Going, I'll get to that because that is, in my opinion, one of the absolute best wedding present songs that there is. But the idea that the version of you that did exist, that person knew and loved, no longer exists because you no longer love them. And the idea of, if it's an ongoing relationship, is that version of them that exists in your mind and the version of you that exists in their mind wouldn't necessarily exist in anybody else's mind. Like sometimes I meet people and they're horrible, and I kind of go, "How the hell would anybody want to marry you? You're a dick." And I'm sure some people think that about me. But since I'm me and I have to live with me all my life, I know that that's not necessarily the case. But the version of me that they see, or the version of them that I see, and I'm going, there is nothing in that person that I could conceivably think about anybody ever having any romantic kind of ideas about. I worked with a psychopath. That doesn't make me unique or different. But that person was married, they had children, and I'm sitting there going, imagine that guy being your dad or that guy being your husband. And I'm like, God, that sounds terrible. But then again, my exes, or at least some of them, probably think about, can you imagine being married to Mark? That must be awful. I don't think it is. Um, but, everybody is different and everybody's entitled to an opinion. And the concepts in the song that you've got the line, you'd be in everything that I do. Everything that I have experienced before today is something that I take on board with me when I write a song or when I do one of these or when I tweet. It's all in there somewhere. I have to remember that not everything that ever happened to me is an anecdote, by the way, but it's all there. And by the way, Dear Caught in Headlights is it heavily influenced by the Rolling Stones' Can't You Hear Me Knocking. So the bass and drums from Dear Caught in Headlights come from that. And if you listen to it, and again, I'll post a link to it down there in the comments, the end section is repeated 3 times, but it's subtly different every time. So the song then builds to a crescendo. Now we've got, I think we've got 3 songs left. Song 8, 524 Fidelio, by the way. And 524 Fidelio, you might think, well, what's that all about? But it opens, again, revisiting one of the common themes that appears in a lot of Gedge's songs, space travel, which appeared in Rocket and Sucker, and there's a couple of other ones as well. Some of the artwork around about the Saturnalia time. In Amongst the Stars, 524 Fidelio, between Jupiter and Mars, wherever you go, I'll go. Which, of course, is a direct line that towers on from Dear Caught in Headlights, which is, if I were a painter, I'd paint portraits of you, you'd be in everything that I do. But then you've got that line, 524 Fidelio, which is the name of an asteroid between Jupiter and Mars, is asteroid 524, and Fidelio takes its name from the password that's used in Eyes Wide Shut, which is Kubrick's last film about relationships and fidelity imagined or real or otherwise. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on in these songs, but most people will just go, right, I just know the words and I'm going to enjoy them, and not really think about that. The last 2 songs on the album are, I think, some of the best closing songs on any wedding present album. There's end credits, which to me it feels like just such a. You might think, well, why is the song end credits the penultimate song on the album? Well, there is a reason, because end credits is this pounding fast thing with two drummers. And if you listen to end credits, by the way, it's two separate and discrete mono mixes, one on the left channel, one on the right channel, one with drums and guitar, and then one where the instruments have been swapped. So there's a different drummer on the left channel than there is that's on the right, for example, a different guitar recording on the left channel than there is on the right. And it creates this sense of being both locked in and out of phase at the same time, this sense that something's right, but it's not quite right, and you can't quite put your finger on what's causing it to be a little bit strange. And it's got some really good lines in it. It's got the lines that the closer I get to you, the further I get away from me, the person that I used to be. And then there's that killer line right at the end. This is no longer any fun. This couple will never be strolling into a blood red setting sun while the end credits are rolling. And I'm like, man, that's harsh. And then the last song on the album, after you think, right, so the couple have split up, then the last song on the album starts on a hopeful kind of note with Mystery Date, which is about, the couple that are on a date and they're just about to kiss. And then the album kind of explodes into a crescendo of sound as Gedge sings, "This does not happen to me. Things like this do not happen to me." And the idea that, yeah, there is hope. And even though you can have your heart broken, you'll be thrown away, that bit from The Simpsons where he goes, and you can pinpoint, you won't be needing this, and tearing out a heart and throwing it into a bin, for example. There's an element where you kind of go, well, you need to end with a little bit of hope and a little bit of optimism. And of course, love is the greatest thing that we do. The book version of Valentina, I don't know if this is still available. If it is, probably worth getting if you're going to get a version of it, because even though it hasn't got the CD in, it's got the album as a download, it's got the 4 extra tracks as a download, and it's got the making of documentary. And the 4 extra tracks are Journey into Space, 1000 Fahrenheit, and Pain Perdue, which the band played live. I think I saw them play that in Tunbridge Wells, and Can You Keep a Secret? And these are great little songs, but songs that have second lives in other places. So the band released a Record Store Day EP, a 10-inch EP called 4 Chansons, which features 4 songs from the Valentina era, this time sung in French, I believe. Dear Caught in Headlights, end credits, and Metal Men from the Club 8 single. This time sung in French, so that's the only commercial release that you've got of Metal Men, apart from the subscription version, and Mystery Date in French. And again, these are the same recordings at the same time as the album, but sung in a different language. And this was followed up in 2013 with the 4 Leader EP, the 4 Leader EP, again a 10-inch with 4 songs with a download code, like the other ones on clear vinyl there. And this has Back a Bit Stop, The Girl from the DDR. That's not a surprise considering that's a German theme song. You Jane and 524 Fidelio. And that is the German language EP. Again, the 10-inch comes with a download. Don't bother trying to read my download. I've already claimed it. And then in 2014, the last of the Record Store Day 10-inch EPs was the 4 Can, I think. Is it 4 Can? I don't know anymore. Yeah, 4 Can, which is the Welsh language version, which features 1000 Fahrenheit, Meet Cute, Journey into Space, and Can You Keep a Secret, all sung in Welsh. I can speak a little bit of Welsh. I can recognise some of the words in this EP. They sound more phonetically correct than grammatically accurate, but I'm not arguing. Again, it's a 10-inch EP. You can pick this up for probably about £10-12 actually, which is a little bit cheaper than it was on Record Store Day. The Record Store Day versions in America, meanwhile, were released 7 inches. So you had the 2 Chansons 7-inch, which was released on This Will Be Our Summer as a 7-inch, black vinyl, I think, there, with Metal Men and end credits on as a 2-track 7-inch. So there's another EP there, and I think that's got, again, handily put together in there. Then there was, I think, Meet Cute, I think, was the next 7-inch, I should have practiced getting these in and out of the respective sleeves. Actually, yeah, no. So it's a 3-track 7-inch EP of the German language stuff. This is the American 7-inch. Back a Bit Stop. We're backed with 524 Fidelio and Girl from the DDR. Again on the same label for Record Store Day. I think this is 2014. The Record Store Day version in America. The 7-inch there, and on a black vinyl 7-inch. And then the final one of those was the last of the 7-inches. Here it is. It is Meet Cute, the Welsh version, backed with Journey into Space. Again, if you're a completist and you're just tracking down the songs, you don't need to get the 7-inches if you've got the 10-inches. But if you're a record collector scum like me and you've got to have absolutely everything, of course, you've got to have absolutely everything, haven't you? So there is the need to pick up Meet Cute as a Welsh language 7-inch, which was sold in 2014 through This Will Be Our Summer in the US. That didn't stop the band though, because the lineup changed a little bit, and they started touring the Seamonsters album. So 21st anniversary of the Seamonsters album, revisiting the album and presenting it again, which was released as Live 2012. Here's a CD DVD of it, which features the whole of the Seamonsters records, plus end credits, The Girl from the DDR, from the Valentina album, which is a little strange to think that you've seen the band the year that the album comes out and they're not playing, some of the best songs off the record, which to me doesn't necessarily make any sense. I'd love to see them play Valentina in full. I'm sure in 8 years' time or thereabouts, maybe 10 years' time, we'll get to see Valentina the 20th anniversary when they're all about 104 years old. I look forward to that tour with great interest. Live 2012, released I think last year, this to mark the 30th anniversary of Seamonsters. This is the 21st anniversary tour of it, which features a different lineup of the group yet again. I think Pepe is on bass, I think. Let me just quickly check. And yeah, so let me just, it doesn't show me the lineup on there. I should have looked beforehand, or I should have watched it. But no, it features a different lineup of the band yet again. I think Pepe was on bass, I'm not sure, and I think Samuel Beer Pierce was on guitar. And I saw Sam play with the band in May at Tunbridge Wells again. So yeah, there you are. Seamonsters again. Live wedding present is generally very good. Their set lists rotate quite a lot. Well worth watching. They're a good live band, very good live band. I have seen, by the way, what's widely regarded as the worst wedding present gig, and it wasn't that bad actually. There you are. So that brings 2012 to a close, and we also have, as I mentioned before, on the Mark Riley Sessions Volume 2, the last of the radio session from November 2012, which features Back a Bit Stop, Heather, You Should Always Keep in Touch with Your Friends, and The Girl from the DDR. But the band are never going to stop, are they? And that's just Valentina. 2013 saw them come back to playing live, and they played, I think they played George Best and the Hit Parade's 21st anniversary as well. So they released a single, Two Bridges, new studio recording with a new lineup of the band, Patrick Alexander on guitar and Catherine Wallinger on bass and backing vocals at the end of 2013. Effectively the Hit Parade 21st anniversary tour single, but also to mark, as it said, 30 years of the wedding present, which is not strictly true. And 2014 saw the band touring again on the back of the Valentina album, this time touring the Watusi records and tying in with the multi-disc box set releases of the albums. So generally 3 CDs, the album plus B-sides, alternate studio recordings and radio sessions, live material on CD3, and a DVD with an interview, an acoustic track, promo videos on. These are, I'm afraid to say, deleted quickly and difficult to get, which is a shame. But it was backed up with 2 7-inch EPs, which if you bought the particular bundles you got from the band's website. So these are acoustic 4-song 7-inch EPs. This one has the first 4 tracks, 1 track from each of the first 4 albums. Something and Nothing, My Favourite Death, Dress, Thanks and Dare, signed by David. On the back there, these were limited to about 300. And then the second 7-inch features The Queen of Outer Space, Gazebo, Drive and Jet Girl, acoustic versions on a 7-inch, again signed by David on the back. These, by the way, are the same acoustic performances that are on the DVD. So if you're just interested in the audio of it and you can't afford or can't find the 7-inches, which is not going to be too easy to get considering there's only about 300 of each one of these, and then just use your DVD audio extractor and rip the audio from the DVDs of George Best, Tommy, Bizarro, Seamonsters, The Hit Parade, Watusi, Mini and Saturnalia there. So you're not missing anything out, by the way. The final thing which I am going to mention, which is not really a very big or particular thing, is that Valentina was re-recorded and it was reissued by a different band, but that ties in with the timeline for the next Wedding Present album, so I'm going to get to that when I get to that part of it. In the meantime, I'm going to wrap up and say I think Valentina is a very good, solid Wedding Present album. Most bands, when they get older, make records as an excuse for touring if they make records at all, and the songs are crap and you can tell they're not interested. REM, for example, most of their later material is not particularly good. The Wedding Present really do work very hard to try and make each album that they make as good as they possibly can. The songs are solid and there's always invention and there's always something new in it. It's like the Fall, it's always different, it's always the same. It always sounds like the Wedding Present no matter who's in the band and no matter what they do. But unlike some bands as they get older, the Wedding Present's new material, I think, is always uniformly excellent, and I always look forward to a new song, which is good because this year they're doing 24 songs period where they're recording and releasing a 7-inch single every month. Where have I heard that before? Well, maybe 1992, but that's going to be for a future episode, maybe in about 3 months' time when we get to the end of the period of 24 songs and we get the last single that comes out in December. I don't know what it's going to be. Is it going to be Christmas themed? Survey says maybe. Who knows? Anyway, that is Valentina, the Wedding Present album, which is named after a character, by the way, by a Belgian artist called Guido Crepax. And Valentina is, again, tying all these in. All of these songs are around the fictionalised female ideal and the impact that they have upon a stupid man. And there are few songwriters that write songs quite as eloquently and regularly about toxic or flawed masculinity inside relationships than David Gedge. And as a man that has a history, I probably relate to some of those songs. Although, having seen Ryan Giggs' poetry recently, I feel a heck of a lot better. Anybody anywhere that ever has any imposter syndrome about any creativity, by the way, you do not feel entitled to feel that imposter syndrome about your creativity after reading or hearing Ryan Giggs' poems about his totem pole, because they are awful. They really are very bad indeed. Of all the things that I had on my bingo card, your softness makes me hard. It was not one of the things that I ever had that I thought I'd be experiencing in 2022. But as we now know, we are in the future now. We're already past the year of Mark Hamill's Time Runner, and so therefore, who knows what 2022 will be like? Where's my hover car? Where's my robot butler? Where's my dinner in pill form? Not here yet. I demand a better future. I want a refund. Anyway, Valentina by The Wedding Present, one of the finest albums that they've made. I saw The Wedding Present last weekend at the Edge of the Sea festival. They were phenomenally good. I'm going to go and see them again. I've met a few people that I've only ever spoken to through a screen before, and it was lovely to meet you all and your dogs. And I look forward to spending more time with you in future. In the meantime, stay beautiful. Take care of yourselves and each other. Subscribe. Press the subscribe button down there. Eventually, I might get to 1,000 subscribers, and I might be able to afford to buy a Mars bar with all of those literal pennies that are waiting me to cash out. And in the meantime, keep listening to lovely music. Keep looking after yourselves, and I look forward to the next time we meet. Although I won't know it because you'll come up to me and go, "Are you Mark off YouTube?" And I'll go, "Yes, who are you?" And everything will be fine because you're lovely. So see you all soon. Take care of yourselves. Lovely. Bye.